Time now for our TV exclusive with the Princess of Wales' beloved uncle. Tonight, Gary Goldsmith steps forward in the aftermath of Harry and Meghan's latest attack on the royals and the knowledge that his niece, born Kate Middleton, and husband, Prince William, are constrained by the royals' it's never explain, never complain mantra, isn't it? Let's be honest. Gary is the 57-year-old only brother of Kate's mother, Carol, and a highly successful multi-millionaire businessman in his own right. Like some of Meghan Markle's family, Gary has had his own scrapes in the past, but in stark contrast to how the Duchess of Sussex cancelled her own father and siblings, Gary recently told the Daily Mail newspaper and Mail Plus online how Kate never turned her back on him despite causing her embarrassment. He said, "The first time when I became victim of negative headlines, the very first call I got was from my sister Carol saying, 'Catherine's been on the phone. Everyone feels for you. They want you to know they are really sorry. Are you okay? How are you coping?'" And it's so great to have Gary Goldsmith here now. Gary, it feels so unfair that your niece, Kate, is the target of this international documentary. She's been purposefully portrayed, I think, completely unfairly and incorrectly as some sort of nasty stepsister. And she can't respond. You're her uncle. What do you want to say?
Thank you for having me here.
Great.
Love to meet you. I think ultimately I'm not talking on anyone's behalf. So it's not my job, it's not my responsibility. I'm certainly not qualified. There are better people qualified to say the family perspective. But when it became so personal, and following the Oprah interview, it was just quite dark. And I just thought the whole thing was becoming untenable. And I had a bit of a hissy fit on social media. And as a result of that, then people were asking me questions. But I think it just got to that point where they're over there, they're taking pot shots at us as a nation, the royal family, which I love, and then my niece. And I just didn't want anyone to have a bad word said about my niece because she is borderline perfectly perfect.
Well, I was going to say,
really special.
Tell me about the real Kate, because you know her behind the pomp and the formality.
Well, and again, she does hug. She is open, and the Kate that you see is the real Kate. I think they had to work very hard on that Netflix series to find one picture of where she might not have looked radiant and glowing and full of joy and full of love, and they used it repeatedly. Kate is a really special girl. The word is she's a commoner. Now, there's nothing common about Kate. She's exceptional. Yeah. And I think she's melted into a role, and she takes her role and responsibility and that sense of privilege incredibly seriously. And it's family, monarchy. I think it's very difficult to express anything without using superlatives when it comes to Kate. But from tomboy to princess, it has been a fairy tale. If you were to meet her, she'd make you feel instantly special. And if there is anything common about her, it might be that common touch where she can just beam you with a smile and you just melt. She's a very, very, very classy lady.
Well, it's interesting that you say she's a hugger, Gary, because, look, I want to play you the moment from the Netflix documentary when Meghan suggests quite the opposite. Have a look at this.
Always been a hugger. I didn't realize that is really jarring for a lot of Brits. I guess I'd started to understand very quickly that the formality on the outside carried through on the inside. That there is a forward-facing way of being. And then you close the door and you go, "Oh, great. Okay, we can relax now." But that formality carries over on both sides. And that was surprising to me.
But, Gary, you say in stark contrast to that, actually, Kate is a real hugger, and I believe she proved the point at her sister Pippa's wedding.
I just find that almost laughable. It's beyond belief. And what on earth was the point in doing this? I don't really think Meghan's a bad person, but that is just ridiculous.
It's sad, isn't it?
It's pitifully sad, because I think we would have always been interested in what they were going to do anyway. At Pippa's wedding, I mean, Kate is glorious, and she's spotted myself and my daughter, and she just smiled with her eyes, and she excused herself from a conversation, and she ran over, and at a fair clip, a proper trot, in front of us, and introduced the future king, Prince George, and obviously just winked at me and said, well, the most important Roman lady in the room is Tallulah. And she asked if if George would like to shake hands, hug, or a high five. And he went straight in for a hug. And then he did exactly the same with me, and we're kissing and talking until Carol whirled in like a dervish and took Kate and my daughter away just to see Pip behind the scenes. Now, Kate is just lovely.
Which is the total opposite of what Meghan would make you think in that documentary.
No, if Hollywood came in knocking and then we were asking Meghan, can she curtsy, I think we'd find out for a part. She'd definitely say yes, without all the razzmatazz and jazz hands.
Well, we've seen that, haven't we? The other thing, actually, that I thought was more damaging, though, if I'm honest, Gary, was when Prince Harry, who has obviously had this terrible fallout with his brother, William, tries to suggest that maybe William didn't marry Kate for the right reasons. So I know you'll have a lot to say on this, but let's just have a look at the clip first.
Many people in the family, especially obviously the men, there can be a temptation or an urge to marry someone who would fit the mold, as opposed to somebody who you perhaps are destined to be with. The difference between making decisions with your head or your heart.
Now, of course, the clear implication there was that he had followed his heart by marrying Meghan and William had followed his head by marrying Kate. But you have seen them together, William and Kate, away from the cameras. Are they really in love? Is this a true love story?
I've seen them together in very unguarded moments. At Carol's house, where the first time I ever met William, he was making cups of tea and Kate was cooking supper. They are very comfortable with each other and they tease each other, which I think is a very great telltale that people get on when they can actually have fun at each other's expense. And it's done in a very tongue-in-cheek, very loving way, touchy-feely, and it's a very natural relationship. I think you see it at weddings, you can see it when they're out and doing public duties together. There's still smiles across the table at each other. That was a relationship that was born out of a friendship first at school and then at university. And they've taken their time. There's been no rush. I think everything that happens within the royal family it's an evolution. It takes its time and they find their own balance and path. Whereas we're looking at Meghan and everything needs to be a revolution there. And there's natural conflict. I think that's very unfair of Harry to suggest that. And if you can hear that, that's an entire nation rolling its eyes at this stuff. It's just not true. We want the brothers to get back.
And it feels like it has been a true love story. The other thing that I thought was really fascinating was the contrast to how Meghan treated her family members the moment that they got in a little bit of trouble. We know the story about Thomas Markle and the photographers and all that. By the way, I don't actually buy into this thing that Thomas Markle committed some crime. You know, he did a deal with a photographer, who cares? But for whatever reason, Meghan felt that was such a terrible offence, she was going to cut her father off forevermore. Now, Gary, when you have created headlines, Carol and Kate didn't react in the same way.
I think there's multiple elements to that whole story. One, if you're trying to get back in touch with your father and explain what's going on and protect him from what is about to happen, why would you write to them? You pick up a phone, you try to communicate properly.
Get on a plane. You know, your dad's nearly died. You know, was close
Give
to
the guy
death.
a hug.
Yeah,
apparently
totally.
you're a hugger.
Yeah.
But with me, that everyone has been really cool and supportive, and we didn't ask for this. I love my family. I love my niece. I think my relationship with the kids is absolutely special. You don't get support. There isn't a guide. you are thrust in front of the spotlight, and I try to be a decent version of myself, and I try to be better, and I'm sometimes a walking car crash. And I know that.
Never cut you out.
No, but there's always a means and a way, and there's no been any public fallouts. I'm sure they're very frustrated with me occasionally. So, and I'm rightly so. But I don't hide behind anything. I made my own mistakes.
And that's family, isn't it? Because blood is thicker than water, and what we realise over the course of our lives is the people who will always be there for us in those very dark moments are our family members. And I think Carol, your sister, and Kate should be judged very positively for the way that they dealt with some of your situation and the way that I think Meghan dealt with her father and her sister and her brother. Personally, I'm not putting this into your words, but personally, in my opinion, I think it says a lot about the character of the people involved.
And I don't think our opinion is just ours. I think a lot of people share that opinion. I appreciate the fact that publicly you're saying that, because they're good people.
Well, look, I'm so glad that you've come to defend the honour of Catherine, we should call her today, because anyone who I speak to behind the scenes in the royal households always points out that Kate treats her staff impeccably, and that was actually the main reason her and Meghan fell out in the first place, because Meghan had been speaking to staff in a way that Kate found inappropriate. And to me, I think, again, that says quite a lot about the person. But look, Gary Goldsmith, so lovely to meet you.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you for sticking up for your niece, the future Queen, tonight. And Merry Christmas to you too, Gary.